Before we start today's episode, a bit of housekeeping for all those listeners out there. Whichever your podcast listening platform of choice, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, reviews can make a huge impact. Not only do we value your feedback, which can help us create better content, it will also help others discover the podcast. So spread the love and leave a review if you've got a minute. And with that, on with today's show. I'm the Reverend Dr Jenny McKay, veterinarian and minister in secular employment, environmentalist, activist, and self-confessed cat junkie. But believe it or not, I have never hosted a veterinary pathology virtual quiz on Instagram. Someone who has is my guest, Professor Roberto La Ragione. So, Roberto, please let me know how it went. And I'm guessing there wasn't a music round.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. Great to be here today. Well, it was really good fun, actually. We get lots of students involved in the quizzes, and we're able to ask a lot of different questions to individuals at different stages of their careers. So it's great fun, really, really good from an educational perspective, and it gives everybody a chance to participate. But yes, there wasn't an educational round, but there are lots of different fun rounds involved.
Excellent. So something I've definitely got to try, I think, for the future.
You must.
So, Roberto, you're currently the head of the School of Biosciences and Professor of Veterinary Microbiology and Pathology in the School of Veterinary Medicine, and this is at the University of Surrey. Can you tell me a little bit about your career in veterinary microbiology and how you arrived at this particular field of animal medicine?
Yeah, of course. So I think it all really started off with a love of animals early on, and being very lucky to live out in Italy for a while and be in the countryside and seeing animals in different environments, and also seeing sometimes animals and indeed humans, of course, with different diseases. And there was a curiosity about what causes some of these diseases, particularly those infectious diseases. And I went on to study initially animal biology, and then followed by postgraduate degrees in veterinary microbiology at the Royal Veterinary College, and indeed a PhD in the pathogenesis of E. coli in poultry, followed on by some postdoctoral work as well at various different organisations, including what is the Animal and Plant Health Agency, now DEFRA, and university positions. In all of those, I worked in the areas of infectious diseases. And I really had a love for understanding how those infections occurred, how they were spread, and above all, how could we control those infections using novel techniques, whether that was a vaccine or a pre or probiotic or novel compound. And I've been continuously fascinated by the diversity of organisms and really just how clever a single bacterium can be in how it reacts to an environment, it reacts to a host, and the disease that it can cause. But of course, also the fact that they are so beneficial as well. We know that we can't live without our microbiomes, and they are really important in everything that we do from day to day, from food to the environment, to livestock, to our own health.
Yeah, and a lot of what you're learning from veterinary microbiology, of course, is very, very helpful to human medicine and understanding what's happening with infectious diseases there.
Absolutely. And I think it really plays to that whole one health and one medicine side of things, where we're bringing just animals, the environment, and humans together. And we're really looking at that holistically, and of course, planetary health at the same time. And things like antimicrobial resistance are a classic, where we're seeing resistance in the environment, in humans, in animals. And we know that there's interplay in between those, whether it's use of antimicrobials in animals, in humans, or indeed in crops as well, and other antifungals, etc.
Yeah. So very, very wide-ranging consequences of anything going wrong in this field of microbiology. What's your current line of research at the university?
Yeah, so my research is quite broad. It's very much initially focused on understanding how pathogens that can be spread from animals to humans, so zoonotic pathogens,
Mhm.
understanding how they're spread and how we can control them. And I work very much on a lot of bacterial pathogens such as E. coli and Salmonella and Brachyspira, which cause disease in animals and humans. And we're trying to understand how the spread happens and how we can stop it. We're also interested in antimicrobial resistance, both how it emerges, how it spreads, and again, how can we stop it, or what are the alternatives to antibiotics? And we've recently published a lot of work around alternative compounds for antimicrobials so that we can not only replace antimicrobials, but in some cases repurpose some of the really important antimicrobials that we're seeing resistance to at the moment. And that means we can continue to use those when necessary to treat infections. But ultimately, it's about supporting those animals and humans so that they don't need antibiotics in the first place. So some of my other work is focused around the microbiome and how can we understand the microbiome and adapt it so that it's best placed so that we don't get infections, or if we do, it bounces back quickly and we recover from those infections as quickly as possible and don't require antimicrobial treatment.
Oh, it's brilliant. That would be very, very exciting. I know a lot of people would be very, very happy not to have to take
Absolutely.
antibiotics.
Yeah, of course, and I think another area is bringing technologies such as artificial intelligence into what we do. So we've been using artificial intelligence in my research to predict and detect antimicrobial resistances from the sequences of bacteria, but also using the medical records of animals or farm records as well. And it's really fascinating the accuracy that you can get with that. And you can use artificial intelligence to help with diagnostic assays as well. And our laboratory's been doing a lot of work around rapid diagnostics where we can diagnose infections very quickly so that we can know which antibiotic is required before the patient even leaves the surgery. And that means that we're really helping with antibiotic stewardship.
It's really, really good because I know a lot of people, they're very cautious about artificial intelligence, but the benefits it can bring to areas of medicine such as yours.
Yeah,
Incredible.
absolutely. And I know there are lots of skeptics around, will it replace? I don't think it will replace. It will make many of our roles much more important. And I mean that we can focus on the really more complex conditions. So, in both pathology and microbiology, it can allow certain screening of samples, but it also can make the actual diagnosis more accurate if it's used in conjunction with the expertise of a human pathologist or microbiologist.
Absolutely. So you also have another role, Roberto, and that's Chair of Trustees for Humanimal Trust, which I think is an absolutely great name. Can you tell me a little bit about that organisation and also the idea of one medicine?
Of course, yes. So Humanimal Trust was originally established in 2014 by Professor Noel Fitzpatrick, who many of you will know as the super vet, a globally well-known, groundbreaking orthopedic neurosurgeon, veterinary surgeon. Always, as a vet, it really felt a big divide between human and animal medicine, and his thoughts were around this was unfair and frustrated by the lack of opportunity to share what was learned in both human and veterinary medicine across the two. So that laid foundation for work that the Trust does today in trying to remove barriers and seeking to close the divide between both human and animal medicine. And the Humanimal Trust really believes humans and animals should have better opportunities to benefit equitably from medical progress because vets, doctors and researchers and allied professionals should routinely collaborate and share and work together. And all of that together is one medicine where we have reciprocity. We have, if there's a new drug developed for animals, then could it be used in humans and vice versa? And by studying the natural processes of diseases, we can make more rapid progress. And in some cases, that means we're able to study the course of a disease in an animal or human, rather than having an experimental model, whether that's in the laboratory or elsewhere.
And I know there was a recent competition. It was called the Humanimal Trust Creative Awards, and there were a lot of wonderful entries at that. But can you tell me a little bit about the research and educational programs that are available?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there were some absolutely fantastic different things that were submitted for that particular call. Absolutely fantastic. From a research perspective, we've got a lot of different areas that we're looking at, and that includes infection control and antimicrobial resistance, oncology, musculoskeletal disorders and disease, neurology and neurosurgery, regenerative disease, and many other potential projects. And the most recent call that we've put out is really specifically looking at particular areas that we can support. And that might be additional funding towards a PhD project, small projects, pump priming projects, and match funding, proof of concept awards, helping master's degrees with specific focus on one medicine, and undergraduate summer projects and literature reviews. And all of those can help us to build what we're doing around one medicine. From the educational perspective, we've recently launched a number of initiatives around education, and specifically bringing in educational experts to look at how do we educate about one medicine right from the early ages in schools, so that we can bring in one medicine at the earliest possible stage, so that everybody grows up with one medicine and is really able to understand what it means and the implications of it. And hopefully that will help them to work alongside the many vets and doctors and scientists that are trying to make one medicine a reality.
That's really, really good, isn't it? As you said, getting people interested in this when they're at school, and undergraduates as well. It just gives them a taste of what it will be like to get involved in science, longer term.
Absolutely. And trying to bring in as much as we can into the university curricula as well, so that actually it's integrated as part of the curricula, both for vets and doctors. And at Surrey, we've now got a new medical school which has just been launched, and we're hoping that we'll be able to teach our medics and vets together and really have some areas of one medicine early on in the curricula, so that all of those professions can study together.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'm a great advocate for vets. It always amuses me sometimes when you talk to some medics and they don't realise actually how comprehensive our treatments are and our knowledge is. So I think it's great that they're going to be melded together and learn more about each other's disciplines.
Absolutely.
Now I'm going to take you back to a time in 2015, and that's when the School of Veterinary Medicine was opened, and you had two rather special guests who no longer are with us, sadly.
Yeah.
That was the Queen, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was late Queen and late Prince Phillip. Wonderful memories from that day and afterwards too. And it was an absolutely fantastic event, actually. And the school actually opened in 2014 with our first cohort of students, about 46 students at that time. But the buildings were opened in 2015, and we were so wonderfully gifted to have the late Queen and the late Prince Philip visit on that day. And I think what I remember from that day was their interest in everything around the school. They were really interested in the students, the facilities, and the education of the students, both animal lovers, and they really spent a huge amount of time talking to staff and students, and really absorbing what was being done at the school and what was different about the school, the innovation at the time, the different curriculum and the distributed model, which had been used in other schools as well, but we were doing it slightly differently at the same time. They were also interested in the innovation, things like the animal monitoring devices, the use of AI, how intensive agriculture was changing, especially things like poultry and aquaculture. A real interest in what we were doing, but also how veterinary medicine, and particularly the farm side of it, fits with the countryside and the planet health and environmental health. A real interest in that, and wildlife as well. And we were asked many questions around wildlife and how we worked with them and what our role was, to protect wildlife as well.
Yes, I think they're very clued up in the environment, and I think the younger royals as well are very clued up about that side of things as well, which is very pleasing to see.
Yes, it really is. It's really fantastic.
So how do you see the school has changed over the last 8 years?
Well, there's been quite a lot of changes, and it's been fantastic to be part of that journey. And having come to Surrey really to start the school a few years before it opened, it's been fantastic to be part of the whole journey right the way through. But I think the biggest thing is that the number of students has changed. We went from shy of 50 students to 150 per year. So that's a big increase in the number of students. Still a really nice number. And I think we get to know all of the students. But other things that have changed, I think the research portfolio has really diversified. As we brought more academics in, and we're really fortunate to have a really diverse portfolio of academics from all over the world. We've been able to diversify the types of research we do, whether it's from neurological disease in dogs through to antimicrobial resistance in my lab, to epidemiology or digital pathology, lots of different areas, and really contributing to the health and welfare of animals, but also public health as well. I think our collaborations have increased hugely with other organisations, and our partner network has grown. And I think with that, the work that we're doing, of course, has increased our contribution to society as a whole, and as a different professions that work in the school, from vets, scientists, pharmacists, nurses, lots of different professions all contributing to society. But I suppose really the icing on the cake is the fact that we've now got vets who are qualified that are out in practice. And being able to get those vets out there working and feeding back to us, and sometimes even contacting us for advice, is a really wonderful feeling. And also getting the feedback that those vets are integrating well in practice, and that actually the distributed model has worked really well from a perspective of ensuring that they have the best possible training in day one competencies when they start off in practice. And also they've got to know lots of different practices and environments. And I think being able to deal with those changes, rapid changes, and of course over the last few years it's been particularly difficult with COVID and other things that are happening in the world at the moment. It's been really very difficult for new graduates to integrate sometimes, and I think the fact that our students get to work in lots of different practices before they qualify has probably given them a little bit of a help in that transition period.
Help them to be very adaptable, as you say.
Absolutely. And resilient as well, I think.
Have some of them come back into the research activities as well?
Yeah, not at the school, but yes, certainly some students are getting more interested in research, and we've had some students contact us in practices saying, would we like to help them with some research that they're doing, clinical research. We've had some students looking at the potential of doing PhDs as well, and within my group I have quite a few vets doing PhDs. Some of those come from different universities, not necessarily Surrey, but I think there are a few students who are thinking about research, definitely, and I certainly encourage a few to think about microbiology and pathology, and trying to get them interested from an early stage. And I think most people that go on to do a vet degree want to practice to start off with, and really find their feet from a perspective of what the best pathway for them is going forward. But I do hope some go into research as well. We need vets in research.
We do, both.
and lots of different areas.
So obviously very passionate about your research and your work, but were you an animal lover growing up, and did you have any pets as a child?
Oh, absolutely. Lots and lots of pets, always. And well, a real diversity of pets, from rabbits, rodents, and
Oh,
dogs and cats and
all
chickens and all
sorts.
kinds of things. And and I did live in Italy for a little while and was very fortunate to live in the countryside in a small holding. So that was also
Right.
a really lovely experience growing up as well. So
When did you think of microbiology then as a possible career path?
yeah, I think probably it was a few times when I was in Italy early on, where really I probably saw animals that were unwell, but I also saw animals when they were being sold for meat, and I thought, well, actually, there are potential risks, I suppose, associated with that. Having heard about organisms like Salmonella and E. coli, and actually, I had Salmonella when I was a young child.
Oh, right.
And that actually definitely made me think about wanting to understand more about microbiology. And I was hospitalized and very, very poorly with it for a few weeks. So I think that definitely made me think microbiology might be a career for me. And combined with the animal side, I think veterinary microbiology was a perfect choice.
Absolutely. And do you have any pets currently?
Yes, dog, cats, and fish.
Oh, and
So
fish as well.
yeah, I've got a lovely cocker spaniel and a tabby cat and tropical fish,
Oh, that will keep you very busy when you're not at
amongst
university.
others. Yes, definitely.
So you wear many hats in your position at the university, as well as your numerous advisory roles, research and board roles. What does a normal working day look like for you, or is there maybe no such thing?
Oh, I don't think there's a normal working day. What I'd say is every single day is exciting. Every day is different. And I think the diversity is what I really, really like. And I think working in academia, working in research, working in the veterinary environment does allow you to have a really diverse and fulfilling career. I suppose my normal day is filled by lots of meetings, but I'm really fortunate that some of those meetings are about research, some are about education. And so they're not just discussions around necessarily management only, which I enjoy as well. But I think the diversity of being able to do some research, manage a large school, and at the same time contribute to the education of the next generation of vets, veterinary scientists, and other health professionals is really rewarding to be able to do that. And I feel very privileged to have my role. And I often think it doesn't feel very much like a job most of the time. It really feels like something that I'm continuously enjoying and learning myself. And I think that's really, really good thing. If you can enjoy your role most days and keep learning, then I think you're probably in the right job.
Absolutely. Sounds wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could offer one piece of advice for anyone who's maybe listening and thinking of a career in veterinary science, what would it be?
I think, firstly, keep your options open. There are so many different career pathways through veterinary medicine. I think about the diverse opportunities, anything from working in research, as we've discussed today, to being a clinical vet in practice, through to working with DEFRA as an advisor, through to some of the less well-known roles, perhaps working as a named veterinary surgeon or other roles such as that, or working in the pharmaceutical industry, etc. Many very, very senior roles are occupied by veterinary surgeons and veterinary scientists. So I think it is keeping the open mind and thinking that each day and each year you may learn something new, and it's a continual learning process. So even though you're qualified in your particular discipline, you will continue to learn, and it may take you different pathways. I initially didn't think I would be in academia. I started out working in the university doing research, but then worked at DEFRA for many years and was very satisfied with that role, but then actually thought I wanted to give something back from an educational perspective. And then that took me into university and to start a vet school and many other programs as well, which I certainly wouldn't have thought of when I was doing undertaking my undergraduate degree or even my PhD.
No, you're right. Well, we're probably biased, but it is, as you say, it's a great profession, and it just gives a springboard into so many other areas.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes those areas are not always obvious. And I have a few people working in my group that work in, One Medicine, One Health communication, and have a veterinary background. And actually they're using many of their skills, particularly their people skills, but also their science background and understanding of how everything comes together. So sometimes it might not be a clinical role, but actually it can still have a huge component of veterinary science and veterinary medicine in it. But a very different role to perhaps what one initially thinks a vet might do.
So you're obviously very, very busy. What is next for you?
Well, I think for me, it's thinking about perhaps bringing those doctors and vets and other allied professionals more closely together. I think that's really something I'm passionate about, both on the One Health side and the One Medicine side. I'm really keen to work more across the globe and diversify my research more internationally. And I'm involved in many very large consortia in the One Health arena, but also in animal health and welfare. And I'm hoping that, in the future, I'll be able to have an even bigger impact on helping people understand what One Health is and One Medicine is, but also having a real impact on animal health and welfare and public health.
That's brilliant. Well, it's been really, really fascinating talking to you, Roberto, and I'm sure it's given everybody listening a really surprising insight into the diversity of work that can be done within the veterinary science field. And I think I may have a go at having one of these virtual quizzes on Instagram through my Reverend Vet social media profile.
You definitely should. It'll be fantastic. Good fun, and definitely worth it. And you'll get all the questions right.
Oh, I don't know about that. So very, very good to talk to you, and thank you very much, Roberto.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.